Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Samantha and today we are going to be talking about books like we do every day here. More specifically, we're going to be talking about classics. I wanted to make a video about shorter classics that you can read within a day. Mostly because who doesn't want to be able to read a classic in a day and brag about it? I mean, that's the only reason that we read classic literature, right? Is just to brag about it to our friends, show it off on our shelves, make ourselves feel more sophisticated and intelligent than we may actually be, or we might just be, sophisticated and intelligent and have interest in these books. But that being said, these are some short classics that I would recommend to you guys if you're looking for just a quick read, a quick good read. That being said, let's continue on with our journey. These are all 150 pages or less. You can probably read them within a day or two. The first book I want to talk about is The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins. So I read this in high school and I still think about it on a regular basis, which means I have to recommend it. It's about 50 pages long. It is categorized as a feminist classic in like literature. This is a story, a short story about a woman who suffers from fainting disease, or I forget what they actually categorized it back in the Victorian era, but basically we know today that she's suffering from like anxiety and depression. And in order to cure this, her husband and her doctor lock her in a room with yellow wallpaper, and you slowly get to see like her mental, you get to be in her head as her mental state just deteriorates, which is absolutely fascinating and horrifying. And like I said, it will stick with you for a very long time. This is definitely one that you could read in one setting. It's for free online, so it's a great way to just read some literature and get to thinking about how we deal with mental health and how we used to deal with mental health, and where have we progressed and where are we progressing. It's a great short story. The next one I would recommend is a little bit on the lighter side, and that is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I feel like this is kind of a staple as far as classic literature goes. It is, this edition at least, is about 120 pages. And it is, I mean, they make children's stories of this. There's movie adaptations of this. This is a book that you just can't not read, if that makes sense. Basically, it's about a young girl who falls in a hole in the garden and goes on a magical adventure. It's discussing a lot of like, being an outlier, being an outcast. There's conversations about being yourself and embracing that part of yourself and allowing creativity in your life and allowing yourself to think out of the box and be that weirdo. It's like it's the greatest book for explaining, like, it's the greatest book for encouraging people to literally be weirdos. Like, Lewis Carroll, you got it spot on. But yes, definitely one that you could read in a day. There's even children's editions, so have at it. There are so many great quotes in this book as well. So many great illustrations that are just absolutely hilarious. And I think you would be missing out on a lot of pop culture references if you hadn't read this book, if you have not yet read this book. So highly recommend this one. On a little bit of the side, for some reason, like this whole list, it's a lot of sad books, and I don't know if it's because they're shorter books, so they tend to be more emotionally impactful. Like the author feels like they have to pack in a lot of emotion to get the point across when you're only coming from like 150 pages or so. The next book, which is fairly fitting for the fall, is Carmella by Sheridan Le Fauna. Yeah, I didn't even know this was a book until a couple of years ago. I read it during October last year, and I have to recommend it because it is fantastic. This is a very subtly sexy vampire story. It's sapphic. It is about a female vampire who comes to a small town and does some very Dracula vampire-y like things, and it's intriguing. Like I said, it's very subtle, very sexy, very lyrically written. It puts you in the setting very, I keep on saying very, it puts you in the setting incredibly well. And yeah, if you're looking for like a very short spooky read to add to your list this year, I would highly recommend this one. I hadn't realized that there was a vampire book before Dracula, but this is it. And if you're looking to read more classics, I always recommend Dracula. It's a little bit more of like an intermediate book to read. I actually have a video down below where I kind of explain my concept for that. So if you're not quite there yet, read this one first. And if you like this, definitely jump into Dracula or try to read Dracula. This format is a little bit easier to read, but as far as the language goes and as far as like the subtle contexts that you have to pick up, they're about equal. They're about the same. So yes, highly recommend. I mean, who wouldn't like a sapphic vampire book? Come on now. A sexy sapphic vampire book. Talking about sexy, let's talk about, The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald. Yes, of course I have to recommend this book. If you have read this in high school, I would challenge you to go ahead and read it again. Nobody likes required reading. When you have time to make that decision for yourself to sit down and read a book, you're going to enjoy it more. The Great Gatsby is a wonderful one. It is, I believe, on the side of 130 pages, and it takes you on a wild ride. This is the 1920s classic American book about a rich man and his obsession with Miss Daisy, who is just your average girl, right? And it really just like it explores the culture of the 1920s in America. It explores like the idea of idolizing somebody, the downfall of idolizing somebody so strongly that you change things about yourself and your life, and it just chaos ensues in this book. Honestly, this is probably one of the more chaotic plot lines as far as like when stuff hits the fan, it hits the fan, and it's incredible. It's honestly incredible. There's a little bit of discussions of like PTSD and then like the post-war era and how these people were handling it. About relations in the 1920s, the different stereotypes for men and women in this time frame, the glitz, the glamour, what it all was hiding down below. Like I said, I think we all had this for required reading at some point. Yeah, especially if you're in public school in the United States. Like you probably read this book, and there's tons of other metaphors. There's so many symbolic messages in this book, but to be honest with you, if you just want like a very vibey 1920s, fun, dark, party, drugs, whatever, lots of dynamics between characters, this one's a good one. All right. Now I have two really depressing ones. Of course, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck has to be on this list. This is all of like not even 110. This is 100 pages. If you don't know yet, John Steinbeck is my favorite author, and he is known for short stories. That's basically his entire bibliography is of short stories. If you did read this in high school, once again, I'm going to challenge you to read it again. If you didn't read it in high school, make sure you pick it up, because this is definitely one of the most like Americana books. John Steinbeck, I'm gonna try not to rant, but John Steinbeck is so great at taking little like clips of America, and all those dynamics in that small little clip, and like expanding it out to your questioning life and humanity and everything, literally everything, and it's all done in like 100 pages. This is so this one is late 1930s. We're discussing two men who are traveling across America trying to find work, and it's about brotherhood. It's about the struggles in this time frame. It's about America, and as I said, like John Steinbeck's so great, like picking out little pieces of America. For us, it would be history. For him, it was every day, and showing you that glimpse and making it beautiful and heartfelt and emotional. And of course, I'm going to recommend a John Steinbeck book if I'm going to do a video about short novels. So we've clarified that John Steinbeck is my favorite author, so I have to recommend The Moon is Down. This is a book I don't think many people know about, and it is fantastic. This is about a town in World War II, a small European town which is invaded by Nazi Germany during World War II, and it's from the point of view of the Nazis, which is very difficult, and it's very difficult to read. And that's why it's definitely one that you could discuss. It's definitely one that that gets you, right? So these Nazis roll into this small European town, claim it as theirs, do what they do, right? And the town fights back, and like you said, you're getting the perspective of the Nazis, and they like don't understand why don't they love us, right? And the realizations that they come to, the realizations that the townspeople come to, the strength of the townspeople, the dynamics between the two groups of people is amazing. And there's a lot of messages that I think a lot of messages that needed to be discussed that aren't, because this book isn't as widely known or prevalent in our society as far as like speaking of literature. So I definitely want to recommend this one, if only just to give it a little bit more of a boost. This is a great one. But I think there's only one other book that I would recommend, and I'm only going to talk about it briefly because I don't remember too much about it, and that is Night by Eli Wiesel. This is a from an Auschwitz survivor. Speaking of Nazis in World War II, it was written from not the perspective. The author is an Auschwitz survivor, and he wrote about his experiences there. Like how, of course, this is like something that you need to read, and I would love to put on your radar. It's 113 pages, and it will make you sob. That's the weird thing about this book, is I don't remember very many specifics about this book, but I remember my heart being so heavy after reading this book. That it's an experience that everyone needs to have. It's not a book that I hear a lot about as far as World War II and Auschwitz specifically. I think there's a lot of stories centered around this time frame, this era. There's a lot of stories written about the Holocaust from the point of view of survivors and their family members. And this is not one that I hear a lot about. It's a Pulitzer Prize winner, I believe. Eli Wiesel himself is the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. So like, it's weird that I haven't heard a lot about this book. If you're looking for something that is very emotional, if you want something that's really impactful, if you want to think about life, pick it up. It's good. It's a good one. Like I said, my heart was very heavy after reading it. But that's it. Look, it's barely even, you know what's funny? It's like, you could read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books in the space of reading one large fantasy book. I am obviously not I don't have like a doctorate in literature. This is literally just my opinion as your everyday kind of reader. I would love to hear your own opinions down below. If there's short stories that you adore, that you love, that you think other people would enjoy, please drop them down below. There's so many good stories out there, especially short ones like this. They're so easy and accessible to read, and it makes me happy to recommend them to other people. So make sure you comment down below your favorite short story, and tell me if you read any of these and your opinions on them as well. But other than that, make sure you subscribe, comment, and like my video. I will be seeing you in the next one. Bye.